You are watching Gooch Live. I'm telling you what, it's Mental Health Mondays. I am mentally having issues. I'll tell you what.
I
Sorry
tell
about
you,
that.
it's the full moon
I know it's no, no.
on
It,
Saturday.
it is Mental Health Mondays, and of course, brought to you by Gooch Live. And Chuck, thanks for joining us. I apologize, little off base today. Just as you know, my brother's having an operation, and I just got a call from my, I guess, my cousin saying that he's still in after 7 hours. It was only supposed to be a 3 hour operation. And I'll tell you what, really important. This gentleman, I want to talk to him. Pete, how are you, buddy?
I'm good, Kerry. How are you, buddy?
Pete Bombachi. Listen, Pete, I know you're involved with you were involved with Movember. I'm not sure you knew that, Chuck. He was the head guy, got it all started, and of course, it's for prostate cancer. And of course, my brother's operation is dealing with prostate cancer today. And I guess I did not know what they told his wife, that it would be a 3 hour operation only if there was not a complication. So obviously, there's a little bit of issue, but hey, we'll get through it and he'll be fine. So I apologize for being a little rattled, but we're going to get through this. Listen, Kim Fluxgold is going to be coming up in a few minutes. What a story. I'll tell you what, incredible. A mother, a wife, and an author. She's got a great book, Where Did Mummies Smile Go? We'll hear her. Maybe we'll even ask her to read it because it's pretty cool book. I've read it, and she's phenomenal when you're dealing with what she's dealt with. Chuck, Pete's been on the show before. We love the name, Pete Bombachi, Glenwell Project. Pete, if you don't mind, before we bring Kim up, could you tell Chuck and all our listeners again, remind them what the Glenwell Project is? Because I've been so blessed to already know that and be hanging with you. You're such a positive, uplifting guy to be with.
Thanks, buddy. And just like you and like Chuck, because I've watched you and Chuck go at it on this show, and it's a pleasure to be a part of this with you guys. Lots of energy and love the passion. The Genwell Project's a human connection movement. It sounds very simple, but our mission is to make the world a happier and healthier place by educating us all about the importance of human connection and inspiring us to take action. The real truth is the fact that most of us were told to go to the gym. We were told to eat better. If you're really advanced, you were told to become a vegetarian, maybe do some mindfulness, do some cross training. But the reality is the research now is clearly shows us that the single greatest thing that we can do for our happiness and for our health, both mentally and physically, is actually spend time with other people. There was even a new piece of research about 6 weeks ago out of Harvard that said the single greatest thing that we can do to avoid depression is social connection. So the research is new. It's only really in the last 20 years. It comes out almost monthly, new pieces. There was a new piece out of Ireland about 4 weeks ago saying there's a direct correlation to type 2 diabetes and isolation and loneliness. So whether we want to talk about physical or we want to talk about mental, the Genwell Project is just trying to educate people about this information that we don't know. And especially as we're in the midst of a COVID-19 pandemic, we need to hear this more than ever.
Yeah, 100%. Pete, well said. I mean, I think there's absolutely. I mean, whether you listen to people like Russell Brand or Gabor Mate, talking about the value of connection. There is no replacement for human connection. I mean, I think my first dose of that was watching the movie Castaway with Tom Hanks. Yeah. He spent 5 years with himself, and the volleyball became the connection he had to create to feel like he still belonged and that he still had a voice and exercise his voice. And, there was big mental health issues there for him being isolated on that island as well. And certainly you bring up great points there that we are nothing without human connection.
Yeah, I think that, and the interesting thing is here we find ourselves in the middle of a pandemic. And up until the start of the pandemic, a lot of people said, well, isn't this just a seniors issue? Aren't they the only ones that are feeling lonely and isolated? And, I've seen LeBron James write about it. I've seen people from the hockey bubble write about it. I've seen, obviously young people, we're hearing it more and more now that we're back in school. Some kids are, some kids aren't. The CEOs, 50% of CEOs claim to be battling isolation and loneliness at some point during the course of their year. So I don't care who you are. Mothers after childbirth, they battle isolation and loneliness. We are all in this together, and we all benefit from being more socially connected.
Hey, listen, guys, unbelievable topic, of course, to talk about. One of the things that you brought up is isolation is not good for us. There was a survey done, or I guess it was a comparison. Being isolated is could be like smoking 15 cigarettes a day. So obviously we're finding out that it's not very healthy for us. As we know, smoking is not very good for us. So I think we need to really look within ourselves. And what you've done, Chuck, by helping me get Mental Health Monday started has been phenomenal. And Pete, what you're doing, bringing people together and connecting people, as we both believe in. Hey, listen, when we get off the phone, when we get off the show, guys, there'll be four of us. All four of us just pick up the phone and phone somebody we haven't spoken to for a while, because we don't know how important that call may be. So thank you for that. Chuck, do you have a question for Pete before we bring in our lovely Kim?
Let's bring in Kim, and then that way we'll make it a nice little forum here, and that way we can get everything going. And
fantastic.
And, more brains make light work, right?
Yeah, Pete, can you hang on after we hear Kim's story? I'd like to talk a little bit more about some of the things you and I chatted about, and I always love getting Chuck's knowledge.
You're the only one.
That's not true. Look at this. Where did Mummy's Smile go?
What a great title.
Fluxgold. Well, she's going to tell us. Look at this smile. Look at how beautiful that smile is. Kim, how are you?
I'm okay, thanks.
Oh, thank you for joining us. And you don't have to be nervous.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you don't have to be nervous because, as Chuck says, this isn't CP24. We'll only have about 400 people look at it versus probably, 8,000 or 20,000 or whatever. But it's great that you could join us. Pete runs an organization, as you know, called Genwell Project. And Chuck is the co-host. Usually Paul Rosen is with us. As we know, Paul has suffered with kidney stones. The second has passed. He has been cleared. He's out of the hospital, and he'll be on the show tomorrow. So we're really looking forward to having Paul back. Not that Chuck and Pete, you don't do the job as well or better. So Kim, we're dealing with two experts. None of us are medical experts here, so none of us have been doctors. Well, I know I'm not for sure. Chuck, I'm not sure, he's borderline. And Pete, you could have a doctorate of connection. So let's talk about, and they'll have questions for you. But Kim, if you don't mind, just walk us through. Obviously, the book, we'll talk about it in a little bit more in depth. And I've read the book, and I think it would be great if you could maybe read a few sentences from the book, or even read it all, because it won't take you very long, because I know you know it verbatim. But talk to us about how you got here today. Why do you need to talk about this, obviously, on Mental Health Mondays?
I guess my journey basically started probably about 6.5 years ago. I was working in a job that ended up kind of pushing me over the edge. Basically, I didn't realize it back then, but that was the beginning of a very long and difficult journey so far. I walked out of that job one day. I was working for two people who were crooks that I didn't realize, and doing a lot of schemes and illegal and immoral things. And one day they asked me to do something, and I really questioned my, integrity and morals. And it was a Friday afternoon, and I packed up my bags and I got into my car, and I just lost it. And to the point where I basically texted my husband and said, I'm going to kill myself. And I turned off my phone, and hours and hours of friends and family out looking for me. I never imagined that day was going to soon lead me into this darkness that I've been dealing with. And a diagnosis at that point came soon after of depression, chronic depression at this point and severe anxiety, which came very quickly after the depression kicked in. I have learned over the years now that I think there was a lot of things building up in my life that I didn't realize at the point, and that led me to that day and not feeling like I had a purpose in life, and that I was a burden to everyone in my family and friends. And that's kind of where my journey started.
Kim, at what point did you decide to write the book to share your story of where Mommy Smile went?
Well, it actually, one of my first, I've been in and out of the hospital several times, emergency room visits, overnight visits, and inpatient stays. And my very first long-term stay was 6 years ago. It was, I was there for over 3 months. And in that time, I started to journal. And it basically, I then created a blog. And I've been sharing that blog for the last 4 years. And one of those blogs turned into a poem that I wrote. And it was somewhat of a poem for myself, and it was about a family dealing with depression in the family with a mother, but it was my family basically. And I looked at it one day after I wrote it, and I thought I should turn this into a book, because I had read it to a lot of people, and it was something that a lot of people could, understand. And so many people have said, I wish I had this when I was younger, when my mother or father, whoever, was dealing with depression. So I went on a mission to, I found an illustrator who created, brought the vision of mine to life. And the pictures in the book are of my family when my kids were younger. So everything in the book has a lot of me and my family in it. But it was before. My kids are older now, but these pictures were taken as though they were little at the time, and that's where it kind of came from.
I've written 3 books myself, and one thing I found in my process is the catharsis in writing and journaling and mapping down your feelings. So what was that experience like for you? And just to share people who might be going through that exact same experience, how that's helped you, or if it has helped you in what way?
My blog itself is what, I deal with every day. I now blog at least a few times a week. And I share very intimate and honest take on my daily, journey, and the chaos that goes on behind the scenes, and what it's like to live with, depression and anxiety. And, as for the book, it was more, that's helping, helping teach parents and caregivers and teachers and loved ones how to, help children cope with and understand their feelings when someone in their, home or a loved one is dealing with depression. And it goes through very real scenarios of what a day in the life, of somebody's mom who, is in bed all the time or crying or whatever, not participating in, the activities and the socialness and of life.
Kim,
It's
it's honestly, I'm overwhelmed by emotion listening to the the emotion that's in your words as you tell the story. And I think Chuck kind of touched on it, and I think you've done a great job in regards to highlighting how important sharing is. If people wanted to find out where your blog is, how can they get there? Because I actually think you are helping thousands of people by sharing this story, because there's lots of people, especially in COVID, that are struggling with isolation, loneliness, disconnection, and all the things that come from that. So where can people find more?
Um, it's through WordPress, but it's I know that Carrie was going to have it up, I believe, but it's WordPress, but it's You Are Enough 712. So that's kind of what it is. And You Are Enough has become kind of my mantra through this, my hashtag with everything. I got a tattoo recently. And it's, somewhere along my journey, it's not something that's new, but I think he's putting it up now. It's not something new, but it's become kind of my signature for everything. And it's just a positive affirmation that, can help motivate, and it helps motivate me and inspire me and others to just find a purpose and to know that who you are is your purpose. So it's just a gentle reminder of that.
Beautiful.
So that's my blog, and I talk about a lot of that. I did a whole thing yesterday on Movember, actually, and a blog. So I like to talk about, I'll talk about incidents that happen to me, but I also like to make sure that I cover topics in mental health that affect everybody.
Well, and I think the real power in that is recognizing that none of us are going to win all the battles that are in the world alone. And, talking about it opens us up to being vulnerable, sharing, how we feel, how do you respond to things. So I think it's critical. Jen Well will be featuring Movember this week as well, but we feature people, including our good friends, Kerry Goulet, and all the things that he's doing with Connected and Stop Concussions.
Well,
one of
my main purposes of my blog is to ensure that, I know through my blog I've helped start amazing conversations with people, and I've helped people who were living in silence feel less alone, and I've helped so many people just understand the importance of getting help and that they can't do it alone. So I have kind of become an advocate through my blog and through my book now.
Pete, I don't know if you saw today, we had an opportunity, Chuck and I, to have Luke Richardson on, and they're that incredible organization, Kim, called Do It for Darren.
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah. So obviously, their daughter committing suicide was just horrific. And what they've done with that is just absolutely amazing. And both Chuck and I can't thank Luke for coming on. And of course, Battle of the Blades is all about it. So if you're around, make sure Thursday night we're all watching and vote for Jessica. The reason why I brought that up, Kim, is because reading your story, and I have seen some of your blogs, and you're a person that is vulnerable, and you've opened up to us all. You attempted suicide, and you kept saying you were not enough. You felt you were a burden. Can you walk us through that? Because I'm sure today, Pete, you've heard it before, where people are thinking they're burdens under this COVID situation, and they're not enough. It's obviously got to be rampant right at this moment. How talk to us about that and how you got through that feeling of worthlessness, because obviously you're very important to all of us.
I'm not going to lie. I mean, I still have suicidal ideations probably daily. I feel this way constantly. I feel like I'm a failure. I'm a burden. I'm worthless. I feel like my blog and my advocacy and whatnot has helped me find a purpose. but I still beat myself up every single day, and feel like I'm still not doing enough or good enough. I have made several attempts at suicide over the last several years. It's, it's when you're feeling that way, and I'm told, don't ever think that you're a burden and that you wouldn't be missed and needed, and it's in the moment very hard to feel anything else.
Chuck,
when
Pete,
it gets that bad.
I'd like to ask you both questions because I know you're very close to this, Chuck and Pete. You hear Kim say that. What can we do to help? I'm not specifically talking about Kim, but right now I've heard that myself, obviously through my sister's situation, and we want to be there for people. Chuck, what's your thoughts on this?
It used to be, my thought used to be, you can try and help, and you can't. Like, we can't help. All we can do is listen and support. I can connect to Kim and say, I totally get that's how you feel. Like, do you want to continue to tell me, how can I best support you in this moment? What would you like from me? I think most people show up in a conversation and they talk about their feelings, or they talk about their experiences, which totally invalidates what Kim is going through in that moment. And so in that moment, what I found I do is I just say, hey, listen, I really want the best for you. And I love you, and you're a friend of mine, and I value our friendship. What way do you need from me? Do you need me to listen to you right now? Do you need, are you looking for advice? Like, how can I support you in the way that you need to feel supported and heard and understood right now in the moment? And then just listen to them. And what I found is most people, when you ask them that question, they sit there and they look at you like you have three heads, and they're like, because they've never heard somebody ask them that question before. Everyone's always trying to tell them what to do or how they should feel, or shame them more, or try and compare their life. Like, you should feel great. Well, you've got nothing to worry about. You've got money. You've got this. Mental health doesn't discriminate against anybody. It comes in all walks of life, whether you're wealthy, whether you're poor, whether you're tall, whether you're short, what color your skin is, or religion you practice. It doesn't care. And what it does is it has this one small little root that's instilled in every single human being experience that has the words "you don't matter" as the main algorithm. And we all have that at some level, and it's a matter of the capacity you have to be able to create the muscle to have the conversation, because whatever you resist persists. So I have what I call this little Chucky doll on my shoulder, and it's always saying your hair sucks, you're a bad goalie, you're a bad father. There's mother shaming in the world as well. You're never ever going to, you could have the world's #1 mother that wins the Mother of the Year award, and you could say, you could ruin her with one question by saying, do you really think you could have given a little bit more effort? And you will ruin her, because deep down she knows she could have, and that's an irrelevant question. So you're really invalidating that person's experience. And I think if you show up and just ask them and just let them hear what you have to say, then they'll say something like, you know what, I guess what I need from you right now is if you could just listen to me, and I just need to vent, or I need to be heard, or I need someone to understand how I'm feeling, and it validates my feelings without invalidating me, because I'm really struggling with this right now. And then just show up that way and keep having that conversation with that person over and over again, so that way they can feel supported, and they can feel it's safe for them to come out and share with you.
Listen, there's a great picture Kim has sent me. I want to get a comment from you, Pete, but I had to come up, Chuck, because I wanted to, that's me on your right hand shoulder, right?
Yeah. Especially with the hair comment. I get it. Yeah.
Sorry, buddy. I had to come up and say that, because you jab me about my hair. You haven't talked about my haircut.
That's a fair point. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think that's a true statement right there, Kim. And I just want to say I couldn't agree with Chuck's comments more. And I think from a Gen Well perspective, our belief is we have to stop waiting until people are in the struggle before we all can recognize the role that we can play in supporting each other. And I will call out social media. And we're not an anti-technology campaign either. But when Chuck, and even your statement of you are enough, The reality is, when we didn't have the ability to compare ourselves against the rest of the world, it was already difficult enough keeping up with the Joneses on our street. But unfortunately, today we are now competing with the Joneses, the Kardashians, the Jenners, the celebrities, the you name it. And I think just informing ourselves and being aware and conscious of all the complexities that are out there. Dr. Robert Waldinger, who runs the Harvard study called it's the Grant Glug. It's been going for over 80 years. It's been a study of I think they refer to it as the happiness study, and it's all about the thing that makes us happy is spending time with other people. And his comment when he was doing a YouTube roundtable about probably at the start of this, he just said we all just need to give each other a little bit of slack right now. We are living in a time in which none of us have ever been here before. So, when you need that time, find somebody, have a conversation and connect. Because if we can all be a little more gentle, understanding we don't know when this is ending. We don't know what the economy is going to look like. We don't know what the future is. But what we do know is that together we can get through this challenging time and turn off all that other stuff that's going on in the world. And I think just building on what Chuck said, if we can just become a little more conscious of those things, I think we can make the world a little better for all of us. So I just throw that out there.
We need to start to normalize mental illness, like we do any other disease, like cancer and diabetes. We just need to keep educating people and be more mindful of people's words. And so that we can, as a society, come together and help more and more people suffering with mental illness and help people understand that it is real. And that's it.
Yeah. I think those are beautiful words, obviously, with lived experience of your own. When I was overseeing the November campaign, we started the conversation around men's mental health. And, whether it's a man or a woman, we all go through our life journeys and we're going to have ups and downs and we're going to go through challenges. And seeing that we have those supports in place, and to your point, making it okay to have those struggles and those challenges and having the system set up. It's actually one thing I will say. I think it's about the system and making sure the system is built. But I also think it's about letting us all be a part of the solution. The government's going to be tapped as we move forward. The health system's struggling with COVID-19, but people with mental health issues and physical health issues need help right now. And I think each of us can play a role in actually being a part of that solution by being there for one another. And you talked about it, Kim. It is about making us all recognize we're in this together, because that's how we will get through to the other side. So, it's beautiful. It's beautiful and it's heart-wrenching listening to your story, and even as you tell it today. But thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Kim.
Thank you. I just want my voice to be heard, and I want to be an important voice in mental health, and by sharing my story, it allows just one person to get help, then that's all that matters.
Kim, you sent me a description. I've read it a couple of times. I've met you before. I'm fond of who you are, but more importantly, fond of what you're doing. And we sat together at Tim Hortons, and we read the book together, which was fantastic.
Now we know how long ago that was.
Yeah. And it was,
Gave that away.
yeah, Finding My Purpose is what you titled and it was an incredible read, and I love it's called Unsinkable. I found that very
That's
interesting.
for an article that I wrote for another mental health site that
No, I know the book. I've been through it. What are the chances you could read the book for us? Is that possible?
it's right here.
Listen, it'd be great. And we're going to put up where people can get this, because I'll tell you what, I think the important
they should contact me right now through my email is the best way right now.
Okay. And I'll put that up in a second. Can I put your email up? Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll do that after, as you're reading, I'll put that up. But when I read the book, obviously you explained it to me and what the pictures meant and what I found fascinating is that a young boy or girl needs to understand what mommy or daddy's going through. This is not just, I don't think this is just a mummy's issue. This is a parent's issue. And I think it's really important that we, as we found out today from Luke Richardson, Chuck, you were absolutely amazing on that interview, where we found out that they needed to communicate. Their concept was, start the conversation and keep the conversation going. Pete, very similar to what your messaging is. This one's a little bit deeper because we have to have kids understand that suicide is there, and we need to educate. We don't, as you know, Chuck, we don't want to throw it all out at them, but we've got to be prepared and understanding so that your young boys and girls, your sons and daughters can understand what mommy or daddy are going through. And that's what I got from the book, and it made me feel very comfortable. Kim, love to see if
for me, it's never too early at this point to start talking about mental health at home, in school, and this book has been in schools when there was normal school, and in many homes with parents who are dealing with this and need to help a child understand. And it's in simple terms for them as well. And it's just helps child understand that they're safe and they're loved and they're not to blame for their parents' illness. So that's a big message in the book. So I can read it if
You're on.
I'm on.
Do it. I'm glad you didn't ask me. It wouldn't have been easy.
Ask you what?
I'm glad that Carrie didn't ask me to read it. I'm not sure I could have done it.
Oh, I'm having trouble.
This is like our Berenstain Bears picture book moment right now. I feel like I'm back in grade 3.
So again, it's all pictures that were, kind of my kids when they were younger. They're now, my son is 22 and my girls are 21 and 18, just turned 18. So, but 6.5 years ago, they weren't this age, but they still didn't have any comprehension about why their mother was doing what she was doing and feeling the way she was feeling. And they were just as scared as, a 5-year-old could be, and still had to learn to navigate life, even though they were preteen into teens by then. But so, since I was a baby girl, my mummy took good care of me, and I know that both my siblings would certainly agree. When I was feeling sad, she would gently wipe away my tears, and when I was so afraid, she would hug away my fears. She protected me from any harm that may have come my way and frightened all the spooky monsters who tried to ruin my day.
That's cute.
She loved to read me stories before I went to bed each night, then tucked me in real snugly and hugged me oh so tight. As I grew a little older, she would teach me right from wrong and did her very best to make me feel confident and strong. What you can see of the stories. She made me special treats to eat whenever I got sick and knew that Daddy's chicken soup would always do the trick. She helped me to discover what true friendship ought to be and that loyalty and kindness are undoubtedly both key. Sometimes Mummy would get angry too at something that I did, but my apology worked wonders. After all, I'm just a kid. She encouraged me to always try and do my very best and told me if I worked real hard, I would shine above the rest. Those are actual paintings that my daughter did when she was younger, and she just started first year of interior design Sorry, yeah. She was always there to cheer me on in everything I tried, and showered me with praise and beamed with so much pride. And gradually, day by day, my life began to change, and the mommy I once knew and loved became very sad and strange.
Oh, Lord.
Now the heavy stuff.
Yeah.
I noticed she would cry a lot or stay in bed all day, and I really didn't understand why she couldn't come out to play. When mommy was feeling extra sad, she would sometimes go away and have to stay in a hospital until she would feel okay.
Oh.
Then one day, my daddy said he needed to explain that both my mommy's heart and brain were in a lot of pain. He told me that her sadness was an illness called depression, and all I did was stare at him with a very confused expression. I sat there feeling very scared, thinking I somehow caused her pain, but then Daddy cheered me up and said that I was not to blame.
Oh.
Still, I couldn't help but wonder how her depression came to be, because it's really hard to understand an illness you cannot see.
Great line.
Depression may look like a flu when you stay in bed all day, but it can take much longer for it to go away. And there's that mask that so many of us wear.
Uh-huh.
Daddy always tells me how much my mom loves me so, even though at times it's really so hard to know. He says the more we talk about it, the less alone we'll feel, and help more people understand that depression is oh so real. My mommy visits doctors lots and takes some medicine too, and hopefully before we know it, she'll look and feel brand new. I look forward to the day when her depression goes away, so she will come outside again and run and jump and play. But until that day, no matter what, or even how long it may be, I will always love and encourage her, just like she's done for me.
Oh, great finish.
That's,
That was wonderful.
thank you.
I think I was trying to listen to that as if I was a child, not understanding, what depression was, and somebody could explain it to me, and I still wouldn't understand what it is. And I kept hearing the words, "What do you mean? What do you mean? I don't understand." As a child asking these questions, and the parent just having a block of not being able to understand how to convey this. Like you said, it's a disease that you can't see. It's like a broken arm or a cast on a leg. Or a bandage over top of your arm or something like that too. So, I think the least visible diseases are, the worse our perception is, and our judgment towards, whether that's valid or not. So well done.
Yeah, I think what's really pointing in it is the fact that, your son and daughters are looking at you and saying, "What's wrong with mommy? Looks normal. There's nothing wrong with mommy or daddy." Right. So I think the book really captures that. So listen, people that want to get the book, please, please, please support this great initiative, Kim Fluxgold at gmail.com. Chuck, I know you had a final question or comment.
Yeah, Goosh, how I even met you is like I suffered 2 concussions within a week of each other, both hockey related. And I had a 4-year-old daughter at the time. And all she wanted to do was play, and she just, and I had to take her to my mom's house, and I had maybe 2 hours where I could actually, sit with her, play T. And it wasn't like she was a little boy where she's running around with her head cut off. She was just a little girl. She just wanted to play T with daddy and play dress up and play house and do all that. And I remember being absolutely drained and exhausted emotionally, mentally. And then the shaming afterwards I felt where I was just worthless. I couldn't be enough for my kid. I need my mom's help. And that lasted 18 months. And I'm fortunate enough that the concussion lifted. But there's people out there who the mental health doesn't lift. And that stigma stays, and the judgment stays, and the shaming stays, and the guilt stays, and the humiliation is real.
I live with guilt like 24 hours.
Yes, it's real.
It's biggest feelings I have is the guilt.
Yeah, and I'm fortunate enough that that just lifted for me. But I can absolutely empathize with you in your plight, because I know for those 18 months I was absolutely that dad that was the deadbeat dad that couldn't do enough, that couldn't be enough, that wasn't enough. And she would always say, "Daddy, why are you so tired?" And I'm like, "Well, Daddy's head hurts, or Daddy hurt his head." And that's all she could really understand. And that was true on a very basic level, but at the same time it didn't change anything. And I'm fortunate enough that I had, the support of my mother and my stepfather and, my ex that was able to facilitate that and get us through that. But those are
I am very
dark times.
lucky. I have a wonderful husband who is very supportive and wonderful with dealing with everything in the house and the kids
That's great.
and taking care of me. And I have a great support system outside of the home as well. So it really helps.
And I'm fortunate for you that you have that as well as I had it as well. And there's a lot of people out there that just don't have it. And worse off, let's be honest, when you're depressed, you don't do your best work in life. It causes strains on relationships, and actually alienates people and yourself as well from them. And those relationships, people don't understand, and they withdraw, or they're scared, or they're distant, and that just makes things worse. So if you don't have the support, and if you don't have that out there, please seek it. There's hotline numbers that we can call. There's people that you can talk to get help for that as well. But you're not alone in this. If you feel alone, you're not alone. Please reach out.
Absolutely. Look at, I put up, where did Mommy Smile go? What's important, as we wrap this up, I just wanted to thank you very much, but there's a couple of great comments here and a question that has been asked. Very brave and very proud of you, Jan C. Cohen. Donna McCarthy has a great question here. As we've seen you going through your trials and tribulations, and the book was absolutely marvelous, as we see from Ron Hughes saying, wow, Kim, that was a lovely way to let people know about the way it doesn't matter if you're suffering from depression, you can get through this. But Donna asks the question, what makes you happy? Like what helps you through this? Is it I think you mentioned, is it the blog? Is it the fact that you can wake up every day and find a way of being able to consistently make a difference?
What makes me happy, and yes, like this is something I've talked about and blogged about a lot, is gratitude and being thankful. And people think like someone with depression doesn't feel thanks or gratitude, and I do. And I made a whole list on Thanksgiving in a blog of all the things I'm grateful for, and a lot of those things are what makes me happy. Spending time with my family, even though we've spent a little too much time lately. Right? But like, the wonderful friends in my life and my family, and yes, the things that, I've learned a lot about self-care in this. I've learned, that the most important thing to do is I choose me. I need to take care of myself before I can help take care of anybody else.
Yeah.
That is first and foremost. And so I have learned a lot of coping mechanisms and ways to take care of myself. And a lot of those things make me very happy. I love walking and hiking, and I love to write. It's a great outlet for me. And those, simple little things make me very happy. But it's always like, I always unfortunately see the bad in every situation too. So, but yes, I have a lot of, I am very thankful and lucky with a lot of things in my life.
Final point comes from Donna again. She thanks you for the answer. Thank you so much for sharing your story, Kim. Depression is, at least in
and
part,
reality TV. Sorry, that makes me very happy.
Oh, I guess you're watching the election down stateside.
Well, that's actually become very.
reality.
I feel like I live in the States because I don't know why it's affecting me so badly. Actually,
I'm going to rent a hotel room tomorrow night just so I separate myself from society.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
how I like what you just said times 10. Like
yeah.
I
I'm
literally have
watching
to forcibly
CNN
remove
24
myself.
hours
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. I gotta
So
forcibly remove. I gotta like put my palms up like this so people don't think I'm that creepy guy. I'm like, I'm backing away.
No,
Okay.
you are
I'm
the creepy
I
guy.
see Donna asked about medication. I did
Yeah, that's
not
please.
discuss my
Give it my line.
medication. That could take a little time, but I will quickly sum up that I was diagnosed a few years back with treatment-resistant depression because after over 20 different concoctions of medications in a 3-year time span that led to extreme physical and worsening mental issues. I am no longer on medication. I've done a lot of other therapeutic treatments, and in the hospital I did ECT. I've done ketamine trials, and the only thing that I use right now basically is CBD oil. But I cannot take medication, unfortunately. So, but if it works for people, then great. I would never discourage it, but I also encourage that medication is a Band-Aid, and it's not going to make the problems disappear underneath the medication, and that, talk therapy and things like that are extremely important add-ons with medication.
Thank you, Kim. That was
Pete, I was going to ask you a question about just in relating to that, the crossover effect between what you think about the condition, personality profiling, with connection, unpacking trauma that goes along with that as well. Just get your take on that, of like dual having to do both as the job of the person to heal, like our soul is wounded and having the human experience, and get your take on that.
Yeah, again, what I would say, Chuck, is I'm not an expert in mental health by any means, and the GenWell project is tended to be is focused on being a preventative action that we can all take. What I hear in Kim is, the opportunity for all of us, everybody around Kim, to reach out and say, "Hey, how you doing?" You mentioned, Kim, that medication is a Band-Aid, and that actually the CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, it's actually about connecting with people and
yeah.
feeling like somebody actually cares. Chuck, I don't think you could have said it any better when you started off by saying, "Hey, at the end of the day, we're all in this together. Let's come together. Let's recognize mental health as an issue, and let's be open to have conversation." And Kim, you said it right off the top as well. I think we all understand it. I think the challenge for me, Chuck, in answering your question is I think most of us were never educated on how important communication and talking, and even if you were lucky, you grew up in a family that actually had the dinners, you came together, you had your rituals in place, and
Yeah.
now, and to Kim's point, we're at a time right now where we can't even have the rituals that we normally are used to. We see Christmas coming up, we just passed Thanksgiving, and we haven't been, one of the single largest things, we're posting something this week about hugging. People need human touch. And so here we are at a time when we're struggling for lots of different reasons, and we can't do some of the most important things that keep us happy and healthy, which is communicating with those that we love and trust, and maybe even more importantly, having that big bear hug with those people that make a difference in your life. So, those are some really important things that I think we are missing. But I hope, and this is the GenWell mission, I hope we can wake people up and recognize that every one of us has a role to play right now in Kim's life, in Chuck's life, in Gooch's life, and in my life. Is that when somebody's going through some struggles, and it's not just a pandemic, it's divorce, it's job loss, it's financial pressure, it's a concussion, it's the list is it's a 1,000 items long. When somebody's going through a challenge, the greatest thing you can do right now is pick up the phone and actually just say, "Hey, Gooch, how you doing? What's going on? Tell me more." And when they say, "Oh, all's good," you go, "No, Gooch, I know you. I know what's going on." Or, how can I help? What can I do? How can I listen? And just make sure that you're being there for people. And Chuck, I think you did a great job. And Kim, I'd love to hear your thoughts just on any of that as well.
Well, I just feel like check on your strong friends too
Well said.
Is an important, because people are suffering and they're suffering in silence, and you think that their life is perfect, but I've met so many people from all walks of life over the last few years, and I don't take any, relationships or any, as you said earlier, mental health affects us all, and it doesn't matter who you are, and just reach out, and send a text, a message, just saying hi to anyone. The months ahead of us are going to be even more difficult. I've never walked so much in my life as I have in the last 6 months, and doing other outdoor activities and spending time outdoors with friends. And now it's coming to an end, and we need to find other ways now to really connect with each other.
Pete, to your point, I always have a saying that we all have a Robin Williams in our life. We all have that one person who's the funny person, who has it all together, who seems like, they're the strongest person. That's your person to call. That's your Robin Williams. And we all know how that story ended. But we all have a Robin Williams in our life. So don't let Robin Williams go under the radar.
Well, Kim, I cannot thank you enough for being so open and direct. The reading of the book was absolutely fantastic. I want to make sure that we get people to purchase that book, especially at a time like this. So, Chuck, you and I will keep on promoting it. I'll have this up next week on our Mental Health Mondays. One of the things that I wanted to say, my final comment to everything, is that I think the human connection is so important. That's why this is so important. So for the listeners that are on right now, your friends, my friends, you know what? Take a few minutes tonight. It's not too late. It's 7, 8 o'clock here in Toronto. Pick up a phone, call somebody as soon as we get off the phone, text somebody, email. I know we're trying to stay a little bit away from the social media stuff at times, but listen, this is the only way we can make sure our friends, and I think, Kim, you said it very, very pointed just now, make sure we check on our strong friends, because those strong friends can have weaknesses, and we don't know how many people need it now. And Pete, just as we let Kim go, I want to say thank you for saying that we all need hugs. I'm known as that's with an H, not a B. I'm known as a hugger. So guys, I'm giving you all a hug.
That's a nice fucking hug. That's a nice fucking hug. Look at that. That's a nice fucking hug.
Your final words to you. Thank you for sharing it with us. You are enough, and you've certainly opened our eyes to understanding it better. And I think it's important that we do not be scared of talking about suicide, depression, anxiety. The only way we're going to get through this is together, and you can't do it alone. So you are enough to us, Kim.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kim.
Thanks, Kim.
Thank you.
Thank you for being a part of our day.
Thank you for having me.
Bye. Where Did Mummy's Smile Go? Written
What a
by,
great title for a book. Great
unbelievable.
title. Like you can absolutely judge that book by its cover right there, because that sounds like a great lead-in as well.
You know what's really bad is I always say, don't judge the book by its cover. This one you can, actually, because, and the way she read it too, very articulate, and obviously she wrote it, so she would be good. I wish you could see all the pictures. It'd be kind of neat if we had a flip book to do that. But I think what's important, what we took away from there, Pete, we with Chuck today, with Luke, was incredible strength.
Oh God, superhuman. Like, just like I was blowing through the whole thing to my mouth and breathing into my nose. Just like, I was exhausted, Goosh, after that interview.
Yeah, it was,
I literally felt like I got hit by a truck.
Yeah.
I was so blown away by his courage and his strength and his capacity, was just truly superhuman.
well, you know what else I got from it, Pete, tonight was the family bond. I watched my sister fall apart, obviously with mental health issues, and it destroyed her family completely. What I've seen, and I've met Kim on several, maybe 3 or 4 times in my life, the family has been so strong, tight. Think about the husband, being able to be strong and fit for her. I think that's what's important, that we have to understand that as we say you're not alone, you're certainly not alone. And I think that was one of the things that I took away from that, is that, she said he was there for her. He took care of, the cleaning or cooking or whatever. And I find that that's so important to understand, that we are, when we're like this, or when you're like that, you do need other people helping.
The only thing I'll say, and this isn't about Kim's specific situation, is I believe that we've lived through the greatest growth era in the history of the world. We put up physical and emotional barriers between each other. And it's unfortunate a lot of times we have to get to the crisis before people wake up to the role that we play in each other's lives. And so I hope, in listening to Kim's story, and Chuck, I didn't even know about your concussions and what you went through, but hearing your story, it is about us all waking up to the role that each of us play. We have to stop waiting until people show up in emergency rooms with issues before we try to help them. Every person in society has a role right now. And we launched a campaign back at the start of COVID called Just One More. And Gooch, you've said it a couple times tonight. Tonight, one person. Who's your Just One More? Who's that one more person today that you think, geez, I wonder, I haven't talked to Gooch. I know he's big. I know he's strong. I know he's really outgoing. He's really personable, but I wonder how Gooch is doing. And I'm just going to pick up the phone and reach out and call. We have to stop waiting until people are sick before we reach out to help. And, we just need to say, hey, human connection, the research is there now. We weren't taught this. A simple action of reaching out and having a conversation can change a person's day, their week, and maybe even their life.
Well, Pete, much to your point, I'm going to say, like, not only were we not taught this, we were actually taught, my generation, I'm 48, we were taught that it wasn't becoming of us to have those conversations. So we were weak for that. Like, we couldn't be vulnerable. There's only two connections that, that tie human beings. One is empathy and one is vulnerability. And only when you're being vulnerable and having empathy for somebody can you fully connect to their experience. So that way it sits for them that they feel heard and understood inside that moment. And if you're ever with that moment, Goosh, we had the Johnny D on last week, and he sent me a message last night that buckled me. I'm sitting in front of the TV, and to your point, Pete, like, when you reach out to somebody and you say, hey, how are you doing? I had a mentor that once told me that we all live on a starvation diet of acknowledgement. And we as men, we just never get acknowledgement. We are expected to be hard, to work hard, to have it all together, and then we don't know what's going to happen next, and we can't show fear, we can't project, so that way our family feels unsafe, and so we just bottle it, we suppress it. And if you ever go to a man and you actually acknowledge him for what he is to you, why he inspires you, and this isn't gender specific, but mostly for men, we just never get that. And last night, I'm sitting in front of the TV, I get that message from John. We had him on the podcast last week about his podcast. And he reduced me to tears, because that one moment he reached out and said, I just want to thank you for the wonderful advice and care that you've given us, in our idea. And I was reduced, and I'm just sitting there like a puddle after this. And I don't know why I'm crying. But it's because we all live on a starvation diet of acknowledgement. Well, just when someone acknowledges you, like, yeah.
Remember in that situation too, when we were talking, you don't give advice.
I don't give advice. That was what he actually said in the email too, and I thank God he did, because I actually pulled a little bit of laughter out of my tears, when I'm being a puddle. But I mean, if you can reach out to people and just say, hey, listen, what inspires me the most about you is that you're kind. You've got a wonderful heart. I love the way that you're a mother, or I love, how you take, on the world at your own cost, or whatever that is. And make sure you give it to them authentically, because it fits in that way that, they can actually, and most people, and be prepared for this, most people will not be able to be sitting with that acknowledgement.
Yeah.
They'll make an excuse for it. They'll say, oh, people say, hey, I love your hair. I'm like, oh, I've hated my hair since the day I was born. It's so hard for us to sit with acknowledgement that we matter or that we're worthy. That we're so instinctually knee-jerk reaction just to say no, stop, or oh, this little thing, or whatever that is, and just sit with that acknowledgement. And yet it's the one thing that we crave that we don't think that we get in our life. It's really, really messed up as humans.
Pete, Chuck, I think you're great, and I love you both.
Oh, you're a good man, Gooch. Hey,
Thank you.
I'm going to make a quick thank you, and I'm going to make a quick build, because when I watched you guys with Luke, you did, just building on what Chuck just said there, You said to him, Gooch, I want to let you know, Luke, that I was talking. I forget the name of the person who you went on for about 30, 45 seconds and said, this person was saying great things about
Oh yeah,
you.
Chris Streeger was. Yeah.
And I just think it's such a simple thing, Chuck, to your point. It's like, if you know that somebody else thinks something amazing about somebody, why don't you flip them a note and say, hey, by the way, it's a great excuse to reach out and build that connection with people. But hey, Chuck, I was talking to Gooch. He says you're an amazing guy. He loves your energy, your passion, your nonstop energy. It's like, wow, that's incredible. I should let him know that. And just by
When did I
passing
say
those
that?
simple wins along. I think you said that yesterday when we were chatting.
The greatest gift you can ever give is the gift of acknowledgement.
Absolutely.
You know, I'll tell you one thing, on Father's Day, where we all sit there, we all get socks and ties. If you want to make any man buckle, and any females, if you're listening to this right now and you want to make your father buckle, write him a Father's Day card. Don't give him socks. Don't give him a tie. Say, dear Dad, I just want to thank you for being my hero. You work a shitty job for a boss you don't like to give us everything that you have after paying 50% tax on a job you can't stand for a boss you can't stand either. And I just want to make you know that makes you my hero. You will buckle any single man with those words, and he won't even be able to contain himself, because deep down, we don't talk about it. We don't bring it up. We don't ask for it. We just have been taught that's what we do. We don't have to like it, but as men, we've just been providers and protectors. And like, if you said to your father, I don't like this, he's like, you don't have to like it. You just have to do it. That's what we do. You know, you don't complain about it, because if you complain about it, nobody will care. Nobody will listen to you. Don't be a little wuss. Man up. Do what you need to do. Do your duty. And that needs to change, because that, conversation is the reason what makes men shamed inside that conversation. We need to shift that.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I don't know if you've got a chance, Chuck. You should. I've seen your new design of the web. I hope it's new, because the last time I saw it, it wasn't as great as this is. genwellproject.org. Have you made changes to it?
Well, we did update it with our new campaign, which was Show Us Your Bubble. Trying to reminding people about the importance of those that little tight-knit thing we now refer to as a bubble are so important for us to manage through the challenges that are ahead.
Very well done.
But outside of that, the information's there. Hey, there's tips, tools, and ideas on how we can all build healthier connection habits in our lives. And before COVID, we were hosting our 2 weekends a year when we wanted to, be the catalyst that got everybody to say, hey, and I don't want to, I'll say something, which is, we have all these days highlighting this problem or that problem. Mm-hmm. Why don't we celebrate human connection a couple of times a year, so that you don't have to do it because you got an issue, but you're actually doing it because you want to celebrate. Call your neighbors and say, hey, let's get together, because, shouldn't we do celebrations of life while we're alive instead of waiting until people are dead?
Could I make a comment on that? Because I think I've said this to you before, Chuck. I think you've heard it, and maybe you've heard me say this too, Pete. But the one thing that you both have touched upon, and it's kind of reminded me of a situation where when my mother was at her last days, and I was always running in. I spent 15 minutes in the morning, half an hour at lunch. Tony was fantastic. She loved every single day that I was in Toronto, and a half an hour at nighttime, or maybe 15 minutes. And I kept doing this every single day. And closer to the end, we didn't know it was close to her end, but there was a night where she said, can you just stay? I said, Mom, I've been here 3 times today. Yeah. No, can you just stay?
Just be with me.
Just be with me. Stop making me dinner. Stop fretting over this. Just sit there. I just want to look at you, and I just want to talk to you. And I'll tell you, it hit me so hard.
It's the hardest thing for us to do as men. It's the hardest thing. It's so hard. My ex-girlfriend said the same thing to me. She's like, can you listen? Can you just be with me? And I'm like, what do you mean? She's just like, I just need you to hear me and understand me. I'm like, you don't want any advice? You don't want me to fix anything? She's like, I'm a big girl. I can fix my own problems. I just need you to empathize with my feelings. Yeah. And I'm like, that was the moon to me. And I didn't know how to do it. I'm like, can you just give me an idea of what that looks like? And we as men need to have that conversation, because we can't be with somebody without trying to fix the problem. That's the worst thing for us as males, is to get out of the fixing the problem business and just get with the I totally get your experience business.
So can you, Pete, what does that mean to a child then? the amount of time. I don't have children, so I've just watched different things. And I think I've said this before. You know, I was in an airport. It was at the in Auckland. There was a family of 4 kids, maybe not over the age of 12, 13. There's the 4 of them all had this in their hands. And
Oh, yeah.
wait, I think I said this. You know, it was an hour and a half that Tony and I sat there, and all I did was watch. And not one word was said. Not out of the hour and a half, they all just had their head buried in.
Mhm.
It said flight da da da. They all got up. They all put their iPads and they walked to the. Nobody said a word. It's got to be so important as fathers, and I'm sure as mothers, to be there just to listen to them.
Well, certainly the research is very clear that social connection, bonds, multi-generational, parents, grandparents, neighbors, friends, actually is about brain development for really young children. And it also results in better educational scores, better social skills. It has so much to do with longer term implications of socializing your children with other people. And technology, and I was going to say something earlier. Thank goodness we have technology as we're going through this pandemic that allows us to stay socially connected
Yes.
and even do what we're doing tonight. The reality is we're not an anti-technology campaign because technology is here to stay. And
No, we
all
need a balance, so
technology-
right?
Yeah, all technology is not bad. What I would actually even suggest to you is I actually think we're using technology better because of the pandemic, because we're doing things like this. We're connecting as human beings. It's not face-to-face, but we will get back to that. But as we like to say, it's a great supplement to build those relationships that we will get back to and that we will give big bear hugs to when the time comes. But right now, thank goodness that we have the ability to have this type of conversation and share this information with people around the world, even, which is may even be more important. There could be 8 billion people watching this right now, Gooch.
Well, watch this right here. Ron Hughes does not miss a show. He's in Brisbane, Australia, and he is always on, as is Aaron. I see Clive has woke up. He's throwing it at us. Hi, Gooch from sunny Melbourne. And I think it's important to know that technology has given us that opportunity, right?
Absolutely.
To reach
Yeah.
out and touch lives that may not, especially today with Luke Richardson, a young man. His name's Michael Tucker. I know that he's been watching our show, my Aussie show with Sam Trapolino and Aaron Kuzak, and he just saw the topic about Luke Richardson and suicide. He was on, and he really appreciated, because he's probably not hearing it like Luke is delivering it over in Australia, right? So I think it's really important that we continue on connecting. Listen, guys, I know it's been a long day for you, Chuck, and Pete. I've kept you guys on a little bit longer. I just want to end it with your thoughts right now. Obviously, with what's going on, tomorrow's a big day. I don't think we need to get into any type of political situation, but the effects of watching TV right now, and I'm a CNN guy, so I may have to turn it off tonight. Watching people boarding up their stores,
Yeah.
and I'm at a loss to understand it. Could you guys maybe just, if you don't mind, if you don't want to comment, you don't need to, but just please try and enlighten me on, this is 2020. How can we have an election and they're boarding up windows?
Pete, I'm going to pass that to you first.
Yeah. Hey, I'll never be short of a comment, and I think here's what I'll say is, Sivan Palvetson, who used to be the head of Civic Action in Toronto, said to me one day, human connection is the great antidote to political polarization. We have been selling fear for, I don't know, it's more than 4 years, but even beyond
Decades.
that, we've been selling for decades. And the reality is, what we all need to recognize is that we are in this world together, and it can't be a them versus us in anything that we approach. We need to recognize that, sometimes you have to give a little for the world to make rising tides float all boats. And I think rather than fearing and creating separation and building walls, we need to start building bridges and allowing people to be part of our communities. And that's, on a local level, that's on a provincial level, that's on a national level, and on a global level. I think we have long forgotten in our leaders what their role is. And I don't want to generalize. That's not a fair comment. So I just think we have a long way to go. And again, even the message of the GenWell project is about saying, hey guys, we are in this together. We may be in different boats or experiencing different storms because everybody's going through this differently. But the only way we're going to survive as a society through this and beyond this, because let's be clear, the health challenges are what we're dealing with now, but there's about 9 million other challenges that we're going to face coming out of this, with the economic impact and jobs and just idle hands with people being unemployed, that I think we just need to recognize we all need to be a little more gentle, a little more accepting, and build a little more compassion and empathy into the world, because that's the only way we're going to get through this together.
Chuck, are you going to comment or?
Yeah, of course. When am I never going to comment? Like that's just. I honestly, this is going to sound a little weird. But I've sat with this for a while, and if you go on my Facebook feeds, you'll know exactly where I stand. I'm a human equality and rights advocate. You know, I believe that we are all souls having a human experience. Soul doesn't have a color. Soul doesn't have a gender. It doesn't have a sexuality. Human beings have given these properties to our soul experience. Like this, you know, the essence of who we are, we carry layers of the onion of our trauma as a human experience with us that we actually think that is us. It's not us. It's our baggage that we're carrying. I think this pandemic, I think this election, I think these are great learning experiences right now of showing us how wrong our society has been aligned. And I think we're in for a great awakening right now, just like in the start of the century of the Industrial Revolution, or the advent of the airplane, or in the 1800s about the train, you know, and all this, we are just starting now at the tip of the iceberg to get into these mental health conversations, to understand polarity, to understand fear mongering, to understand demagoguery, and all these things that are indicative of fascism, of suppression. And for all of that, for what it's worth, you must practice your own mental health inside of that, because, you know, watching too much MSNBC or Fox News or CNN is not healthy. You know, when it comes down to it, you have to monitor your own, like, what gives you joy. Does that, and I got to check myself when I'm watching the Cowboys last night. I'm losing my shit. You know, they can't be 2-5 and beat the Eagles. And I'm like, you know, 3-5, they'd be in first place, and I'm losing my shit. And then I got to catch myself and say, okay, wait a minute. Why am I freaking out over a 3-5 Cowboys team without a starting quarterback? And that's indicative of my life. And it happens like this. And everybody in their life has those moments 50 times a day. And it's about catching those moments and having the awareness to really control, okay, why does that bother me? You know, why am I giving away my energy to that? Because, you know, when it comes down to it, we give away our energy all day long and then wonder why we're exhausted at the end of the day. So I think this is a great chance right now for awakening for ourselves, for our mental health. And I'm interested as all get out for this election tomorrow. It's going to have an effect on me, and I have to work on that.
Hey, listen, Chuck, don't feel bad. I've got the brown paper bag off my head for my Vikings because they won. You can have it this week.
The Vikings are just as bad. The people,
they're
leaders, like, you need to get Fran Tarkenton back there, man.
Yeah.
Like,
doesn't he wear leotards or something like that?
I just dated myself, didn't I?
Yes, and I loved it. Listen, I sat at the Met Center. I don't know how many years ago in one of their conference finals, and they won. And Fran Tarkenton was the quarterback. So that's
incredible.
I am, and it was
incredible.
Cool. Listen, I'm going to leave it at this. Don't give away your energy.
Right. You know, I'll tell you one thing there before we go. I met the Bosa brothers, Nick and Joey Bosa, number 2 and number 3 overall draft pick. Joey plays for the Chargers. Nick plays for the 49ers. They're both defensive ends in the NFL. I met them down in Exuma, the Bahamas. They were the most wonderful, gentle giants. And I asked them, I'm like, listen, you're beating the shit out of that, left guard and tackle all day long trying to get that quarterback. How do you do it? He's just like, every single play, I realize it's nothing personal. I can't give away my energy because 100% of my focus has to go into getting that quarterback every single play. And the more I give my energy away, the less and better I can do my job. It costs me tens of millions of dollars to do that. And I'm like, wow, imagine that if that cost us that in our personal lives, how much energy we would be really considerate of if you had cancer, if you had a disease, if you had no energy and you couldn't give that energy away, the battles you would choose to pick because your wellness depended upon that, because it would financially impact you 10 or 15 million dollars, like the Bosa brothers told me about. So that was a really, really wonderful gift they gave me.
Listen, I'm going to let you guys go, but with the final comment. I've been watching far too much CNN, I'll agree. But I also then do CP24, and then I go to CN Fox. Oh, then I go over to CBC just to keep myself informed on
Balance.
everything. And I got to tell you, I'm still not informed. I have no idea. But I'm going to end it like this. And you don't have to comment. I just want you to hear, because Pete, you heard me do my little ramble the other day. Here's my point. I was in the let's call it a dentist office. It was actually getting my shoulder looked at. So a therapist. And she was talking, and she had just lost her father to COVID about 4 weeks ago. And it broke my heart to hear it. Right. And then she came and said, but I have a different theory on it. And I thought, oh my gosh, I have to listen. And she came, and then she went on and she was trying to get out who I wanted to pick for the president of the United States. And of course, I don't have a vote. So I can't make a difference.
It's a moot point, yeah.
But what I saw in her, she wanted to hear from me. So what I want to say right now is I forget the politics. Wipe the politics out. Take the two individuals, Trump and Biden, and put them in front of you on TV. And my only thought, again, I don't have kids, regardless of what their background is, but what they're saying out front, would you want your son or daughter to represent the Biden or the Trump? It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, not in a million years would I want my kid to be Trump.
Forget about them both being crooks. Forget about all their past and that. I don't want our kids acting like the leader of the free world. Because,
nobody does.
And that's where I just want to hear your comment on that. Yes or no? No or yes? Yeah,
100%. I always say, if your kid was on a playground and surrounded by other criminals and other kids are always in detention, like Trump's administration has been, how many people would, as parents, would start to have a small little look at their kid being the root cause of this analysis or being the world's greatest victim? So that's where I'll leave that.
And I'm going to say one thing, and it's totally a different perspective, but
That's
we've been educating MBAs for 40 years on Milton Friedman's capitalist approach. It was all about delivering the most bottom line dollar that you can. Every dollar has to work the hardest. And we wonder why we've ended up in a society where greed was good, in the movie with Michael Douglas that I'm
Wall Street.
With Wall Street.
I love it.
People like Donald Trump, who people look up to. You're fired, and they think that's a good thing, that you get to be the power broker. Unfortunately, he's tried to run his country like he's tried to run a business, not understanding that, hey, you don't own everybody, and therefore you don't get to tell everybody what to do. This is a world in which we have to work together, whether it's the environment, the earth, water, business, all the pieces. And the reality is we need to actually come together. We need to heal as a society. And there's only one guy there who says anything about empathy and compassion and coming together.
Nail on the head, Pete. Nail on the head. I love your word greed. You had me at greed.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for sharing with us. I look forward to, Pete, I'm going to get you back on next week. We're going to talk about some other stuff. Obviously, a little bit of the sports, the missing sports right now. Obviously, we know they've shut it down again. Chuck, you know that more than I. It looks like we're even going to go down into a little Manitoba, for example. They're going to shut everything down. And it's just this ebb and flow. Is it good for us? Everybody's saying we need our kids playing sport and going to school, but if we take them there, bring them down, take them there, bring them down, what is the cost mentally? I look forward to talking to you about that. Hey guys, you've been on Mental Health Monday. Chuck, thanks for putting it together. Pete, thanks for being a part of it. You're doing a fantastic job with GenWell Project, and I look forward to talking to you both this week. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, turn the TV off tomorrow.
Yeah. And Pete, I really enjoyed having you on the show. I always love your insight, and thanks for sharing that with us.
Great to be here with you, Chuck.
Thanks, guys.
Ciao,
Good night.
Hey guys, be safe out there. Have a good week.